Alright, I'd commented in the comment section to a fan of the horse stories that I would tell a story about a horse that was a natural born killer. It's a long story and not terribly pretty, although I try to wend as much comic relief into it as I can. I'll have to edit a lot of the language. The cast of characters: Laurie, tough as nails, fearless in the saddle, cursed like a sailor. Rhonda, pretty much like Laurie, but with a year or two's less horse experience. And Cindy, totally green to the horses, the farm, and the scene as a whole. Gentle soul, a couple of years younger than Laurie and Rhonda, and a year younger than myself. Of course, my parents, the horses, the ponies, and a couple of other minor roles not listed in the credits. It's a long story. I'll break it into chapters, and if anybody's following along, I'll just continue as we go. So it was late spring. The old man announced at the dinner table my presence was required immediately following our evening repast, as we had two new arrivals coming in. He was oddly reticent as to imparting any specifics beyond two mares, sisters. A horse trailer of higher standard than was usual had our dump wheeled in, and my instincts were on alert upon introductions. And this is my son Scott. He'll be directly responsible for your mares. A silent and sullen man unloaded the mares as a well-dressed but distasteful-looking character thrust a hand towards me. Pleased to meet you, Scott. You can call me Mr. Jones. How do you do, Mr. Jones? I replied, giving his soft paw a good squeeze. The old man's eyes flashed an angry warning. Mr. Jones proceeded to authoritatively inform me just how he wanted his mares, blah, blah. Normally about this time, despite the old man's flashing eyes, I'd have said something to the effect of, "Shut up, goof, I don't need you telling me what to do." But the scene as a whole was so peculiar as to leave me oddly confused. The quality of the stock that emerged from the trailer simply was not boarded at a tiny third-rate operation such as ours. The trailer and a hired man, no less? It wasn't adding up. The old man not intervening to circumvent this clown talking to me in such a demeaning manner when he knew well and full I was very apt to grab him by the throat and give him a shake. Three girls sitting at a distance off rather than eagerly clucking about the new arrivals. And there's something off about those two mares as well, although I had yet little time to give them more than a passing glance. When the clown had finally had enough of listening to his own self-grandiose pontificating, departed, and I wheeled angry on the old man. "What's with this hinky crap, Pop?" "What do you mean?" he barked back. "Don't give me no crap. Mr. Hinky Blanken Jones there, what's with that? Them mares are first-class stock. What do? Stiff an A-class joint and board and he's stashing them here? Would he steal the horse? What's going on?" "There's nothing to say there's anything." The old man cut me off sternly. "BS," I yelled. So I in turn cut the old man off. "He's hinky. This deal's hinky, and there's something hinky about them mares as well. Since when do we do any hinky business?" "We're not doing any hinky business, and that's all you need to know." The old man's tone made it clear he was pulling rank. "You heard the man. He has high expectations for that older mare in the show ring." "And fine," I said, cutting the old man off. "But that hinky horse ain't never going to see a show ring. That's enough," the old man hissed, having pulled rank and now threatening a court-martial. "Not a mare on that mark. Not a mark on that mare. Doesn't matter what you think if she's fit for the ring. He does. He's paying a special rate, and there's not to be a mark on her." "Oh, sure, and I can walk on water. Does Mr. Hinky know what we call fences in this dump?" "Not another word," the old man growled. "You know what to do. I suggest you get on with it." "Hey, mon Capitan," I saluted back. "I hope Mr. Hinky Jones paid in advance." "Are you done?" the old man asked his patient, nearing the limits. "Fine," I growled. "Just don't tell me I'm supposed to be training her for the ring, because you're not." "Fine then. Just do your blanking job," the old man said, and went his way. The three girls remained perched on the fence in expectation. Odd that into itself. Dad trusted Laurie's equine skills and often called upon them. He must have admonished the girls something fierce to stay clear. Despite my confusion from the onset and wanting to choke Mr. Hinky Jones, in my heated exchange with the old man, I'd been studying the horses as they'd unloaded and were now standing tethered to the fence. The conclusions I'd drawn thus far were as confusing as they were unsettling. Mr. Jones had not mentioned the horses' names. Odd that unto itself. We would come to refer to them as Big Sister and Little Sister. Now, Big Sister was an extraordinary creature. Big, obviously powerful, and in an excellent condition. Coloring and conformation absolutely flawless. She displayed alertness and an obvious intelligence. I'd never laid eyes on such a magnificent creature. Certainly nothing even close to her around our humble joint. And yet my every instinct told me she was an evil creature, totally flawed to fashion I could neither fathom nor describe. Little Sister was not a little horse, just as big as her older sister, but of a peculiar, bony and odd conformation. Dad would claim her mother had died when she was quite young and had not been fed properly in her developmental first 2 years. I don't know if that was right or not. Big Sister had displayed a preternatural sense of protection for her younger sister during the unloading, and still was. Silently, I cursed the old man, Hinky Jones, and the two Hinky mares as I approached them with my instincts on high alert. Big Sister made it abundantly clear introductions were out of the equation, but did allow me without any overly overt signs of aggression to check her teeth, hooves, joints, and the like. Common sense dictated I skip both an attempt at an introduction to Little Sister as well as a physical, and settled for a lengthy visual inspection. The girls still sat on the fence like three crows on a wire. The old man, I must have said I couldn't imagine to them what, for them not to have been flocking over by now. I came to three conclusions as I turned the two mares out to join the herd. Little Sister was the most peculiarly mishappily shaped horse I'd ever seen. Big Sister was indeed physically flawless and every bit as beautiful as what her little sister was ugly. Big Sister was going to be big trouble. I joined the girls at the fence to watch the two new arrivals as they approached the herd grazing in the front field. Now, horses have a social structure, a hierarchy, or a pecking order, if you like. Aside from that, they are as a whole happy to welcome newcomers. Horses are prey animals, and it makes sense. The more the merrier. They always greet the newcomers with, various, personality things, but they always welcome newcomers. Cindy was enraptured by Big Sister's beauty, and Rhonda not far behind. The two of them chattered in appreciation of this extraordinary equine beauty as Laurie and I watched in silence. Bear with me, the chapter's coming to an end. As Big Sister approached the herd with Little Sister stuck close at her side, it was clear this was no normal meet and greet. The entire herd, from top to bottom of the pecking order, biggest through smallest, stood staring warily at the two new mares. Laurie and I met eyes as the two girls continued to ooh and ah. No curious nickers of greetings, no tossings of head, no, nothing. The entire herd, unmoving and silent, continued to watch warily as Big Sister, with Little Sister shadowing at her side, proceeded to the rearmost of the herd, leaving a good distance of separation. This was not good. In fact, I was thinking it's probably some really, really scary business here. I met Lori's eyes again, and she was thinking along similar lines. Oh, Cindy, gosh, I didn't know a horse could look like that. I can't wait to curry her. Don't go near that horse, Lori said with a tone that both Cindy and Rhonda turned to her in confusion. A verbal exchange began amongst the girls, Cindy and Rhonda enraptured, and Lori expressing the same instinctual misgivings as what I had. Lori's infamous temper got the best of her when Rhonda said, "Oh, Lori, you're just as jealous as the rest of us. She's gorgeous." "Well, you just suit yourself, Rhonda," Lori growled. "You're a big girl." "You little girl," she growled at a startled Cindy. "You best just stay the hell away from her unless Scott tells you otherwise." "Me? No blanking way I'm going anywhere near her. That's the ugliest blank horse I've ever seen." And shooting me a look that said, "You tell her, Scott." She stalked off.